Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Sharmit. In this session, we are going to talk about another very important topic related to template driven forms, where we are going to conclude all the classes that we learned so far regarding the Angular Form State. Okay, because we have discussed so many things, so I'm sure like you might be confused with the explanation and the examples that we covered earlier, but there was a need, that's why like we covered each thing individually first, because now you know the examples, now you know the syntax structure, right? And now this is the right time to for you to start with the comparison, because these comparison table will help you to answer the questions in exams and interviews. Okay, and that's why we are doing it separately. So by the end of this session you will be able to understand what are the differences between the Angular Form State classes with proper comparison details. But before we proceed further with this session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow it sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic, because for time being we are just mainly focusing on how to use Angular Form State classes comparison. Okay, and for the detailed content, like you can refer the Tech Sharmit digital course book, which is freely available in the description box. There you can find more than 3000 plus free resources available in both Hindi as well as English language. Okay, alright, so I think now we are good to start with the session, and let's go ahead. Here you can see firstly I'm in the app.component.html file, where we have first main heading that shows Angular course by Tech Sharmit. After that we have secondary heading that shows template driven form example in Angular, and it is mainly related to the comparison chart. Now from line number 11 to line number 18 I have drawn one table with 5 columns. Each column will tell you the information in detail about the classes. So first column will tell us about the CSS classes that we are going to study. Second column will tell us the meaning in a very simple and CSS term, because this thing we are learning in terms of CSS, right? Third column will tell us when this class is added, or you can say when the class is invoked. Then later on we have fourth column, which will tell us when the class is removed or revoked. Okay, in the similar manner we have last column that will tell us how the CSS uses it. Okay, so how the CSS is mainly going to uses it, that we will be discussing in the last column. Okay, so let's start one by one, and we will see one class each time at a time, and we'll explore all these 4-5 columns. Okay, alright, so first thing is ng-untouched. Now the question comes, what is the meaning of ng-untouched class? So the meaning is straightforward and clear, that whenever input has not been interacted with, then in that case we can consider this particular scenario of the class is ng-untouched, when input has not been interacted with. Now this question comes, let's say if someone asks you in the interview when this class will be added or invoked, so you can simply say that when input satisfies the rule, when at the time of page load, not a satisfy, at the time of page load ng-untouched will be invoked. On the other hand, they can ask like what are the scenarios when this class is removed, because we know that on page load it will be added, then when it will be removed. So you can simply say that when user focuses the input field and leaves the field. Suppose we have one input field, when user focus it and leave it, then in that situation or scenario it will simply get removed. Okay, I think this part is clear. Now let's move to the next thing, how CSS uses it. So basically it is used to keep the default styling. So if you want to apply default styling to your application form, then in that case what you can do, you can simply use this class that is ng-untouched. Now we have another thing that is completely opposite to this, and that is ng-touched. So for ng-touched, what we will be doing, we will firstly understand the meaning. The meaning has user has interacted with the input, and that is why we are saying that it is completely opposite, because here the user has interacted with the input. Okay, and when this class is added, this class will be added after the focus plus blur. Okay, so whenever the focus, whenever the thing is in focus and blurred, then we will say that class is added. Fine. Next is when the class is removed. The class will be removed when, like here you can see I have noted down never removed. Why never removed? Because in this situation, ng-touched, like once the user touched it, it will be remain same until or unless we completely intentionally remove it. So that is why we are saying never removed. And when we can utilize it, it is utilized to show validation feedback. Okay, so in such cases you can utilize this thing. Okay, then these two things are clear, and usually we go in to learn these things in comparison only, untouched and touched. That is why like we covered the example also together. Now the next thing is ng-pristine. ng-pristine will be invoked. Firstly we'll talk about the meaning. So meaning is value has not been changed. Okay, so if the value has not been changed, then in that case ng-pristine thing will be invoked. Next thing is when the classes is added. So classes will be added on page load. Okay, so don't get confused between the ng-touched, ng-untouched and pristine, because they are completely different. Here we are mainly checking for the value changed. Okay, and when this will be removed, it will be removed when the value gets changed. Okay, so on page load it will be invoked, and in case of value change it will be removed. Talk about if the meaning. So yes, it is used to avoid early styling. Okay, so when you want to do early styling, then in that case we can utilize this ng-pristine. Next we have ng-dirty, which is completely different or opposite to the ng-pristine, because here value has been changed by the user. So whenever the value has been changed by the user, in case of ng-pristine value has not been changed, but in case of ng-dirty value has been changed by the user, and class is added when the user types first time. Okay, so suppose we have one input field, and the moment when user start typing A or whatever letter or whatever email, even with the first keystroke it will start adding this class, so it will add it quickly. Okay, so whenever user types for the very first time, it will add this. And when it is removed, it is never removed, because the moment when you start typing, it will be remained throughout the process, because you are changing the value until or unless you are doing it forcefully. Okay, and the question comes when CSS uses it. So CSS uses it just to show the or highlight the modified fields. Okay, now next thing is ng-invalid. So validation rule failed. Okay, so ng-invalid means validation rule is failed. If we talk about when classes is added, then you can say that when input breaks validation. Suppose there is an input field where we have applied multiple validation. So if any of the validation is failed, then in that case this ng-invalid class will be invoked. And when it is removed, when the all validation process is passed. Suppose we have created one input field where we have applied required and min length. So if your min length is satisfied, required is not, required is satisfied, min length is not, then in that case it will invoke this ng-invalid class. And when it will be resolved, it will be resolved when the all the validation are passed. Okay, now if we talk about how CSS uses it. So CSS is used to show the error styling. Okay, so in case of validation errors, it will be used to show the error styling. In the end, we have last class for this session, that is ng-valid. So validation rule passed. In this situation, all the validation rules are passed, and when it is invoked, when the input satisfy the rules. Later on, if we talk about the when the class is removed, so you can simply say that when the validation fails. Now how CSS uses it? It uses used to show success styling. Okay, so you can see these are working current like exactly opposite to each other. In case of error styling, we use this thing which is ng-invalid. In case of success styling, we are using the ng-valid. Okay, So these are the all comparison detail. I hope this session is clear to all of you. In the next session we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.